So, when Rings of Power came out, I started watching it, and I had some issues, and I couldn't really finish it. But now that season 2 is coming out, I have decided to give it a second chance. There are two lenses to view this show. One is through as an adaptation of Tolkien, and one is through as its own property. And I am going to mention Tolkien and my thoughts on it through that lens. But with this rewatching, I'm going to attempt to look at it through the lens of it being an original property. I think it is easier for me to be kinder to it through that lens. I'd like to be kinder. However, I think especially in this first episode, which deals a lot in information about the Silmarillion, which they don't have the rights to, so they kind of gloss over everything about it, but they reference it, so I will bring it up a lot, I think, in this specific review of the episode, but I hope to be a little more lenient going forward. The first thing I wish to talk about is the opening sequence where Galadriel makes a ship and then kids throw stones at it. That scene, I believe, is a reference to the Noldor burning the Teleri ships in the Silmarillion. I think they're trying to go for a cute little reference to it there. I personally think, from an ideological standpoint, that is it fundamentally misunderstood what that entire conflict was about. Because the Noldor, which presumably these children that she's playing with are, because Galadriel is a Noldor, she's wise for a Noldor, but she's still a Noldor. They are the Noldor the problem children of the elves? Yes, absolutely. That's why they're the most entertaining of the elves. Yes. But why are they the problem children? They love their art too much. They are the dwarves of the elves when it comes to their obsession with their craft and their work and beauty. They cause a lot of suffering. They did burn ships. They did this. But why? And their motivation is because of beautiful creations. The idea that they would destroy something just for the hell of it, I think, runs contrary to how fatal flaw of the Noldor is that they loved their creations too much. The whole point of them is that they're passionate artists. And to see their freaking children in elf heaven throwing stones at a ship, I think fails to grasp what Tolkien's crippling, basically the flaw that dooms them is. It's the opposite of that. This show kind of says they went to war over the destruction of the trees. By the way, one of my biggest compliments to the show is I love the way they did the trees. I think that's absolutely beautiful, which is true in a certain extent, but it glosses over, probably because they don't have the rights to it, the fact that they went over there to get the Silmarils back and their obsession over those jewels. So them destroying something beautiful for no reason, like even children in elf heaven, it didn't sit right with me. It's a very small gripe, but it immediately rubbed me the wrong way when I watched it years ago, and it still rubs me the wrong way. So I'm going to bring it up. So then we get a scene with Galadriel's brother, Finrod. Full disclosure, Finrod is my favorite character in the Silmarillion. He was one of the few elves that didn't have a stick up his ass, and I loved him for it. He's very brief in this show because he dies. We'll talk about his death, because his death sequence in Silmarillion is one of my favorite parts in the Silmarillion, period. It's so metal, oh my god. Now, the way they handled his death, I suspect, is because they didn't have the rights to the book in which they describe his death. So they kind of imply that he died in battle against Sauron. Now, let's be clear. He did face Sauron in an epic magic rap battle in which he loses and then gets thrown into a werewolf pit where he breaks his chains and strangles a werewolf with his bare hands, then dies of his wounds. It is the most metal death ever. And this is not it. They clearly don't have the rights to that, so they didn't show that. It's clear someone in the makeup department wanted to reference it, because if you look at his body when Galadriel is crying over it, it is definitely marks of like werewolf claws and not battle. So I don't know. That was nice to see. Also in that scene is Galadriel vowing to take up Finrod's vow to defeat Sauron, which, for the record, is not Finrod's vow in the books, but again, we were trying to see it from a new lens. So in this story, Finrod's vow is to defeat Sauron, and then Galadriel takes up the vow to defeat Sauron. Now, this pissed me off when I first saw it years ago, and it still does. Galadriel doesn't have a lot to do in the books, and he doesn't give her an enormous amount of character traits, Tolkien, but one of the, arguably the only clear character trait that Tolkien gives Galadriel is that when everyone's swearing reckless oaths, she does not, because she's wiser than the rest. Oh, that's literally her only character trait in the book, is that she doesn't swear stupid oaths. And then practically her only character trait in this show is she swears reckless oaths. So it feels like literally the opposite. But we're going to gotta focus. This is not Galadriel from the Silmarillion. This is not Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings. This is a different character. And this different character goes after reckless vows. This isn't Galadriel. This is just a gal and I think mentally thinking that way will help me see this with a more open mind, right? So going forward, this is a different character. We will not think about Tolkien and the only characterization he gave her. All right, moving on. This girl is a commander who's hunting down Sauron, and her people, like her men, are just want to go home. In this fortress, we get some elvish. Now, I'm surprised by that, because if I assumed that they were speaking elvish this whole time and they just translated it into English for convenience, but if some random guy speaks elvish now, what language are they speaking before that? Like, what language are they speaking throughout this show? Is it not elvish? I feel... What? Okay. Okay, so I think there's been a lot of hemming and hawing over her wielding a sword. If I think of this from Galadriel from the books, I would have to feel like that's a major downgrade, because she's like super crazy powerful and doesn't need a sword to be dangerous. I mean, but this isn't Galadriel from the books, so fine. If she wants to be a Xena warrior princess, whatever. Whatever. That's fine. She's a commander. She wields a sword. She swears reckless vows. It's just I got to move on from that. And so our people mutiny, which is great for them because they get to go home. Good. And then we meet the Proto-hobbits, which I think was kind of fun. Their society is interesting. Kind of feels like it feeds off of British folklore of, little creatures that you can't see. So I kind of liked that. That felt interesting. I assume we're going to see how they become hobbits, so to speak. I can see where that could go in an interesting direction. Then we go to Elrond, and there's this offhand remark of like he's not allowed into a council meeting because it's for elf lords only, and I'm like, what do you... Elf lords only? Is he not a lord? Are they trying to go that Elrond's common? Which is like, what do you mean elf lords only? All right, so Elrond and Galadriel have this conversation, and there's this famous line.
I am grateful you have not known evil as I have, but you have not seen what I have seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
A lot of people like to make fun of that line. It is silly writing, but my issue with it has to be Silmarillion based yet again, because she seems to imply that he's had like a nice life and has not seen pain and suffering. I'm sorry, you can say that to other people, but Elrond, you do realize you're talking to the kid that watched his family get murdered and then was raised by the murderers, who were your cousins, and you're saying that his life was rosy? What? Okay, I don't know. It feels I felt very insensitive. Yeah, but yeah, has he not seen what she's seen? Yeah, he hasn't seen the Undying Lands. That he hasn't seen. But pain and suffering? I'm sorry. I don't know. But maybe in this version of reality that didn't happen. Maybe Nazaros and Maglor didn't murder his whole family. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but so I'm going to pretend that that's the case. So Elrond writes Gil-Galad's speech, which is awesome. because he was Gil-Galad's herald, and it's nice to explore that. I'd love for them to explore that more. Gil-Galad grants passage to the Undying Lands, which I'm not. Is he allowed to do that? Because the whole reason they can't go back is fate. Didn't the Valar stop them from going back? Like, how does he have the power to grant permission for that? Does he? I don't know. I don't think he does, but I guess he does in this. And then they get on a ship to go to Valinor, and they get like all the way to Valinor and hear the singing of Valinor, and then she backs out and jumps into the water, which is insane because I mean, they even show the map at the beginning of this show, so it's not even like, oh, in the book. No, they show the map in the show, right? That is like someone getting on the Mayflower and going all the way to the Americas, and then like when they see the shore of America, they decide, jump into the water and try to swim back to England. Are you freaking kidding me? What? What? No, no. No. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous within the context that you have already established. This is not Tolkien stuff. This is the map you showed at the beginning. There is no way. There's no way. Did the writers look at the geography at all? I mean, I'm sorry. What? No. That's not a Silmarillion gripe. That's not a Tolkien gripe. That is just a straight up writing error. What I would have done if you had to have her go back is you have this like light thing going on. Like maybe there's like the light like consumes them, and then she gets back on the ship, and then she uses the ship to start sailing back, or she does this way closer to the other continent. But how it is currently does not work. That's absurd. It's absurd. We're moving on from that. And then at the end, we introduce Celebrimbor, which I'm very excited about, because Celebrimbor was the thing about this time period that when they announced they were doing this time period, I was the most excited by, because Celebrimbor and Sauron's dynamic is very fascinating and would be very interesting to explore. But we'll get to that episode when it happens. Right now, I don't know. I gave him a musical fanfare. Like when he was announced, it was like a big deal, which I was happy about because Celebrimbor is a big deal. Let's be clear. The character, I don't know if the actor has the gravitas to pull that off. He does not scream grandson of Feanor to me. That might just be me, but I don't know. The visual design for the elves, I'm not crazy about so far. It's just they kind of feel more like D&D elves and less like Tolkien elves. Tolkien elves are more like fairy in the way they present themselves. There's an ethereal, inhuman quality to them. They aren't humans with pointy ears. They're just fundamentally different from us, and I don't get that with any of, like, they feel pretty human to me in this show. I don't know, but we'll see. But I'm gonna watch the whole thing this time, come hell or high water, and so see you on the next one.